OPA President, Secretary General, the ex-co, thank you for the invitation. I'm deeply honored to be part of this very eminent panel. So let me set the stage. First of all, these are my personal views, but I will also bring Bank of Ceylon specific examples because people need to know what the role Bank of Ceylon is doing. I will also give industry examples, and it's very powerful that the top 52 professional associations in Sri Lanka are together with OPA. And I really like what the session chair of OPA who coordinated this, who said, we need action. We just don't want to waste time talking. So I think, and I would recommend whatever points you have, please make a note. Also the positive things, and we'll move forward. First of all, recovery versus growth. I think as a country today, every Sri Lankan is looking at growth. Recovery is taken for granted. That's a fact. Despite what's happening in the Middle East, despite how our currency and interest rates move due to global challenges, people are today focused on growth. And yes, we need to have a resilient recovery. Because if you look at Sri Lanka, we have had multiple challenges during the last so many years. But we have moved forward, and we need to also appreciate what we have done. On the SME sector, as per the available statistics and data, roughly 75% of all enterprises in Sri Lanka is part of SME. Think about it. Very, very powerful. There are 75% people running SME businesses. And you're right, Charminda, the last statistic is 52% of GDP is from the SME sector. And 45% of employment of the entire country is coming through the SME sector. So it's a critical sector, and let's call a spade a spade. In 2022, when the crisis hit, it was the SME sector that was badly hit. And that in turn had an impact on the banking system as well, because obviously, your NPL ratios go up, and then the moratoriums come in, and then the IFRS standards come in terms of how you recognize and measure the loan portfolio in your accounting statements. So let's also talk about what is financial inclusion. A key point which Bank of Ceylon team always drives is before SME there's another letter. We must never forget that. There's another M in front of it. That's called the microsector. Microsector is where the smallest entrepreneur will start. It could be someone who's selling mangoes, or a street vendor, someone like a young youth who wants to be a digital creator. They don't fulfill the requirement to fall into the category of SME. In the banking sector, the regulator has defined the turnover levels for SME. But we as a team, especially OPA, when you give suggestions, start with the microsector. Because microsector is where we have to start on financial inclusion. And the microsector then transitions to the SME, the small medium enterprises, which then become the large corporates in the country. And at Bank of Ceylon, we have seen over the last, we just celebrated our 87th year. And if you see some of the largest businesses in separate sectors, we have classic examples where they have started at a very, very small level. Recently, I was speaking to a very large entrepreneur, and he said in Sinhalese, Chairman, sir, api me mulimma patan gaddi mama kare wena වෘත්තියක් මට පළවෙනි 50000 loan එක දුන්නේ ලංකා බැංකුවෙන්. Today he's a billionaire. He's a billionaire. So I think this is where financial inclusion and access has to come into play. Then let me talk about technology with a purpose. We are all talking about digitization and technology, but we have to cover technology with a purpose. I'm not sure whether you are aware, today in Sri Lanka, all 331 divisional secretariats. If you take the entire country map, country has 331 divisional secretariats. Bank of Ceylon, together with our BOC agent banking solution, we have covered the entire country. What does that mean? A person can walk or cycle and do their basic banking, whether it's deposits or withdrawals. I have my BOC team here, the COO and the CMO. You know, these teams have opened these solutions in the very far north, in islands, which people used to have to take boats to travel 1 hour. In the southern, even in Maduganga, we recently opened. So today, I think this is an example for South Asia, and when you make a note, you have to appreciate this. This is an industry achievement. The Central Bank of Sri Lanka, the Ministry of Finance and relevant ministries, Sri Lanka Post, strategic partnerships created this, and as per my understanding, I don't think South Asia has achieved what we have achieved. Because we are talking about bringing SME people into doing business. First of all, they should be able to access the banking system. And I'll touch another relevant point. Our mobile penetration is probably 139%. But the key point is, what is the smart penetration? And when you have smart penetration, there may be few people who have 2 or 3 smartphones. But we need to give smartphones for everyone. Until they have the smartphone, can we leave them behind? That is why the new word, phygital. You have to have physical and digital work together. And then through digitization, we have to optimize efficiencies, free up time. At Bank of Ceylon, we have 16 million accounts. Just imagine the resources required to support all of this. The largest ATM network, 2,300 touch points, again the largest in Sri Lanka. And you know, these are not done purely on profit basis. Because some of those divisional secretariats, why haven't people gone into those segments? Because they are not profitable. But as the bankers to the nation, we have led in the forefront in creating this access. And to be fair, this is an industry achievement. Everyone worked together. I think BOC took the last 30 divisional secretariats and got it done in the last 18 months. This is something I will cherish as my chairmanship over the last 21 months, which I have been doing, because we feel it's very powerful. Next point. All of you know about Aswasuma. Look, 10 years back, did any of them have bank accounts? They used to get money to their hand through the relevant representative closer to their homes. When I was with Citibank, I used to always read the World Bank recommendations, IFC reports. And one of the top recommendations was, let's bring them into the digital banking system. Obviously, you know the efficiencies and also avoiding corruption. You know, these are great examples of bringing the very poorest in the country into the banking system. Another fact, all of them have bank accounts today. 10 years back, most of them didn't even have a birth certificate. We worked with the regulators, especially central bank, and all that has been cleared, and we have, in my view, I believe the statisticians have to verify that, 18 and above bankable population have access to banking. That's a powerful term, because as I said, for you to start business, you have to have access to the banking system. Again, this segment is not profitable. 1.8 million Aswasuma labing. Bank of Ceylon handles about 42% of this. Bank of Ceylon, People's Bank, NSB, and Regional Development Bank. Only these 4 banks took this challenge. And we have driven this to a level where these people also now got into the habit of saving. When we talk about business and finance, first people need to know the habit of saving as well. Apart from that, we have given them free debit cards. So if you take our volumes, roughly 93% of the entire bank is digital. That includes ATM transactions as well. I think we are moving in that digital space. These are statistics which are very powerful. And I think we will further give examples when MSMEs come, most of them don't have what you call a POS machine. A POS machine is expensive where you tap your card. But the drive that Bank of Ceylon, all the banks, with the central bank's guidance, is to encourage QR payments. We feel that this will create an opportunity where vendors can get immediate credit and they don't need a smartphone. All they need is a 2G phone which can give them an SMS. First-hand experience, Madhuganga went in a boat for the opening and we were honored to have the central bank governor also with us. We went and had a cinnamon cup of tea and there was a sticker for the QR. We took our mobile phones, paid, and immediately that lady has a small 2G phone. She got the SMS and she said, "Sir, Hari, salli aava." These are little things. But remember, we have to start at the very bottom, creating this access. We also are, I believe, the first bank, it's a stat, that have a dedicated credit card issued exclusively for SME. Supporting young entrepreneurs, youth, women. But the biggest challenge when I meet all these SME association representatives is banks are asking collateral. I think you have to have a balanced view. One, how does banks run? We run with our depositors' money. We have to ensure we have the correct balance sheet, the capital adequacy, and money has to be paid. Two, today, with the support of Ministry of Finance, Central Bank and ADB, we have what we call a credit guarantee scheme. The credit guarantee scheme basically doesn't need collateral, physical collateral. When a person who starts a small business, most of them don't have a hard asset to give, whether it's a land, building, machinery. But with this scheme, and I'm so happy to see the private sector banks are really giving a great competition in terms of delivering and disbursing loans. And I think on your recommendation, you have to tell all banks to drive this. The statistics are, if you take the SME credit guarantee scheme, you can go up to 25 million. My question to you is, when you have an allocation, should you give 25 million to one person, or can you give 3, 4, 5 million to probably 10 or 15 people? I think the granular effect is what banks have to consciously do, and I think this is where we need to move forward. From a risk portfolio diversification, when you have more customers, your risk of losing money is also less, obviously with the credit guarantee scheme. Another point that we brought was, our SMEs have to think big. They have to think going global. Recently, we have had this discussion for the last 10 years. Recently, Bank of Ceylon, together with 2 private banks, enabled PayPal for Sri Lanka. First time. What is that? PayPal is for MSMEs, digital entrepreneurs, freelancers and exporters. Because in the past, bank transfers, international bank transfers are very expensive. But this type of simple mechanism creates an opportunity for all these people to get on to this. So the young YouTube creators, to digital creators, to exporters who are doing crop exports out of Sri Lanka, the smallest ones, even if it's a batch, whether it's king coconut or cinnamon, they have an opportunity to create and link their payment systems through these type of new innovative financial models. Sri Lanka is not built purely by large corporations. These statistics show how we need to drive and create opportunity for the MSME to come up. At Bank of Ceylon, we will continue to drive digital. We will continue to drive knowledge, because it's not just borrowings. I will share some examples when we get on to the Q&A. We as a country are moving forward in a positive trajectory, And I think we will continue to focus specifically on this. Sri Lanka doesn't have a focused development bank or SME bank. And we have taken it as our responsibility as the largest bank in Sri Lanka to drive these segments together with the industry. My time is sharp on 15 minutes. Thank you very much.